In this video, we're going to continue examining how to graph polynomial functions by finding the zeros, the relative minimum, relative maximum values with our graphing calculator, and then sketching from there. So let's take a look at this function, and we're going to plug that function into our graphing calculator. So we have our graphing calculators, y equals, and we're going to type in 2x to the third power minus 4x squared minus 3x plus 4. And so we have that in there. Now if I hit graph, I can see the sketch of my graph up here. So I'm going to take that image so we can use it later on when we're actually graphing below. And I'm going to pull the table of values from my calculator. So second table, looking at my y's, this is a good range of y's. A lot of them fit on this graph. So I'm going to go ahead and use the y values that appear from x to -2 all the way to +4. So let's copy down our table of values. So I have my x column, my y column. At -2, I'm at -22, -1, +1, 0, 4, 1, -1, 2, -2, 3, 13, and 4, 56. So at -2, I'm all the way down here to -22, way beyond this point. But at -1, I'm all the way up here to +1. At 0, I'm at 4. At 1, I'm at -1. 2, I'm at -2. 3, I'm all the way up here to 13. And so that allows us to at least plot those points. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to use our calculator to help us with finding our real zeros. So we have our calculator. We can see our graph. I see 1, 2, 3 x-intercepts, so I have 3 real zeros. So I'm going to hit second calc, option 2, 0. Left bound, right bound, so mark a point to the left of this 0 and mark a point to the right of that 0. Guess, just hit enter, and we have our first 0, -1.08. Repeat the process for our second 0, so second calc, option 2 is 0, mark to the left of that 0, enter, mark to the right of that 0, enter, guess, hit enter again. We get our second 0.81. And we repeat the process the third time for our third 0, second calc, option 2, 0, left bound, mark a point to the left of it, use the right arrow to move to the right for right bound, guess, hit enter, and we get 2.27. And so that gives me my 3 real zeros. X equals -1.08, 0.811, rounds up to 0.812, and then 2.27. So those are my zeros. If I want, I can take the time, I can plot those on my graph, -1.08, so that's about right here. At 0.82, probably close to right here. And 2.27, close to right here. And so we have our 3 zeros marked. Next we want to do is we want to look at our relative minimum and our relative maximum values. So let's do our relative minimum first. So again, we look at our calculator. Second calc, this time minimum is option 3. We want to mark a point. Here's our low point, left bound. So I want to mark a point to the left of there, hit enter. Use the right cursor, go to the right of it, hit enter, and guess, hit enter. And so I have my relative minimum at the coordinate 1.64, -2.86. and then I repeat that process for my relative maximum. So we go to second calc. Option 4 is our maximum. Here's our relative maximum point, our high point of the graph. So we're going to go to the left of that point using the cursor. Hit enter, right point, hit enter, guess, hit enter again. And we have our relative maximum at negative 0.31, 4.49. And so that is where I'm going to plot my relative maximum. I'm going to plot my relative minimum at 1.64, negative 2.86, and my maximum at negative 0.31, 4.49. And so let's plot those points. Negative 0.31, 4.49. So negative 0.31, 4.49. We got right about here. And our relative minimum of 1.64 negative. So 1.64 negative 2.86, about right here. And then we use our graph to assist us with sketching. So I can see I'm going to be coming from all the way down here, because at negative 2 you're at negative 22. Coming up, I'm going to be going through this 0. Coming up, I have my relative maximum point at green right there. So I'm going to hit that point, turn around, come back down, go through the 0, hit my relative minimum point, turn around, come back up, and go through my 0. And so we see the sketch of our polynomial function by identifying our zeros, the points from the table, our relative minimum, maximum, and connect them with the curve. Let's look at the next one. So I have my polynomial x to the 4th plus 2x minus 1. So I'm going to go to my calculator, clear out my y1, x to the 4th plus 2x minus 1. Hit graph. We see our graph. It looks like we have 2 real zeros that we're going to need to account for. I do not see a relative maximum. I only see a low point in the graph. So let's grab a table of values. So second graph, I can see my table of values. I'll go ahead and use from -3 to +3. And let's just copy those down from our calculator. So we have our x column and our y column. At -3, you're at 74. At -2, you're at 11. At -1, you're at -2. At 0, -1, 1, 2, 219, 386. So at -2, we're all the way up here at +11. At -1, you're at -2. At 0, you're at -1. At 1, you're at 2. And 2, you're all the way up at 19. So there's our points plotted. Let's now look at finding our zeros with our calculator. And we saw from the graph that there was 2 x-intercepts. So we are going to have to find 2 real zeros. So let's find the one on the left first. So second calc, 0. Go to the left of it. Hit enter. Right bound, go to the right of it. Guess, hit enter again. And so we have our first 0. Repeat the process again for the other x-intercepts. So second calc, 0. Enter. Left bound. So go to the left of the 0 I see. The x-intercept, hit enter. Right bound. Move the cursor to the right of it. Hit enter. Guess, hit enter again. So I have my 2 zeros that I can plot on my graph. Make sure you write them down, that x equals -1.40 and 0.47. So let's plot those points on our graph. We're at negative 1.40, right here, and at 0.47, about right here. And again, if we look at the graph, we can see there's only a minimum. There is no relative maximum. And so we're only going to find our relative minimum value. And so I go second calc, option 3 is minimum, hit enter. Left bound of this minimum point, hit enter. Right bound to that point, hit enter. Guess, hit enter again. And we get our relative minimum, which is the coordinate negative 0.79, negative 2.19. And so that's the point I'm going to plot on the graph. Negative 0.79, negative 2.19. So it's actually below this point. And now we're going to connect with our curve. And so if we look at our image to help us out, it comes from the top. At negative 2, you're all the way up at 11. So we're not going to go past this part of the grid. So negative 2, you're all the way up at 11. It comes down. It goes through the 0, hits this point, hits the relative minimum, turns around, comes back up, goes through the 0, and hits this point. And so now we can see the sketch of our polynomial. Again, we notice we have to use the table of values, our zeros, our relative minimum, maximum, connect them with a curve to sketch our polynomials.